Adam,
Yeah?
is this an ad?
This is an ad for Mutinex. Mutinex are a marketing mix modelling company.
Why do I need one of those?
Well, then you can model the return on every single marketing decision you do.
So you wouldn't do an ad like this?
You would never have to do an ad like this ever again.
Mutinex Growth OS, your best decisions start here. For more information or to request a demo, visit mutinex.co. That's MUTINEX.co. And you mentioned clients there. Is it hard to find clients who have a similar obsession and similar level of care, who care as much as you do?
Yeah, it's not been the easiest, but we found a few. Our top client pitches me all the time. He's just so involved in it, so obsessed by it. And a lot of those, people are those brands that love what they do as well as part of a passion project for them. He wants to be in the weeds. I think the flower shop works when you're a client that wants to be a little bit more intimate, as I said, with the process and pretty hands-on.
Adam, hi.
Hi, Brent.
So we love an independent agency here on Black T-Shirts, don't we?
We do. I won't give my agency a plug now, shall I? No.
Tinkerbell again, another, and we love one that's hot right now.
Yep, absolutely.
And one that feels very hot right now from New York City is Flower Shop, and we actually have the founder and chief creative officer of Flower Shop, Al Merry, with us. Hello, Al.
Hi, nice to meet you. Thanks for having me on.
Al, first question: are you wearing a black T-shirt?
I'm not. It's a heather grey.
Heather grey? Did you say?
No, I don't know. It's kind of grey.
He did say heather grey.
What,
is
heather grey a colour?
Yes.
Why that colour?
No real thought behind it. Honestly, it's just it was there, and I'm okay to make decisions about the wardrobe.
The whole show is based on the colour of your T-shirt, so you need to come up with some inspiring story as to why.
Do you have a uniform like many creative people we talk to, Al, or do you sort of mix it up every day?
I'll try and give you an interesting answer. I don't know whether it will be. I probably, as a creative, wore black T-shirts more than I do as a business owner. And I think the uniform for me has changed a little bit. And yeah, I'm probably a little smarter, I don't know, I want to say I don't want people to remember me by my clothes. I just would rather they kind of blend in and the work did the talking, I suppose. And as a business owner, you kind of want to wear a little bit of a smarter get-up, I think.
Oh, is that right? So what? So talk us more about that. Like not just T-shirts. Is it more a crisp shirt, a blazer? What does a business owner wear versus a creative person?
Well, I'm still trying to work that out, honestly. I would, for me, it's like maybe a smart pair of trousers and maybe a polo neck. Little, nothing too crazy, not a suit or a tie or anything, but just little,
It's interesting that you identify as a business owner there rather than a creative. How's that changed the way you work, the way you, think about things?
And I also think, Al, you do have a partner who is the CEO, right? You're the creative partner of Flower Shop and your business partner is the businessy partner.
Correct, yeah. But it's not as clear cut as that. I think that the decisions we make and have made have been pretty joint in terms of the business. As we've kind of grown, there's been a lot of crossover. We haven't been that black and white. It's never been like, hey, you're doing the business side, you take this and I'll just focus on the creative. And I think there's so much to do. To your question, Ben, about how do you divide your time? There's so much you can do. That has been probably the trickiest part for me, is figuring out how much time to spend on the work versus looking for new business or, trying to figure out with Bill the kind of the cash flow projections. I'm pretty involved in it all. I'm interested in it all. So I kind of tend to get into the weeds on most stuff.
And does that make you a better creative?
I think now I'm slightly more practical probably than I was. I don't know whether that makes me better or not. I've got a kind of overall sense of the business and the client and what we need to do. I think that I can still compartmentalize the creative when the work needs to be done. I'll go into that zone. I don't really get distracted by the business stuff when I'm thinking of ideas.
We're meant to start with you as a child, but that's okay because we'll go back there at some stage. Your agency is called Flower Shop. It's a beautiful name, and I know your office is where it wants a flower shop. I just want to come back to that idea that you're a more practical creative as a business owner. I reckon that would scare a lot of people, both internally and to your clients, to out that, to say you're more practical in your solutions. I'm just wondering if that's a good thing to say.
I mean, for me, it's like when I was a creative, I did what I wanted to do without question. Now I think I just have a better understanding of what might be the right thing to do. I'm sure that it sounds like that, maybe I'm diluting the work or giving the client work they want. I don't think it's that. I think you could look at the work and I think it's still very creative. I just think that it's maybe a bit about experience and growing up as well a little bit.
Every agency, it seems, starts with a philosophy or a model or something that's different. What's different about Flower Shop?
I think there's a real intimacy to the place and the process. We are in an old florist. We sit around the same table in a shop window. We're very close to each other, literally. And, work-wise, I'm very intimate with the work and with our clients. It's probably a level of intimacy that people are not used to. But we think that the closer you are as a team, the better the work becomes. And the more distance you have from each other and from the work, the worse it becomes. And ultimately, we're trying to bring brands and people closer together.
And is that
how do you scale that?
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask.
How do you scale that intimacy?
Yeah, I think you find people that care as much as you do about the work and about the process. And I think there's a ton of people that do still really care about making advertising. We are scaling and it's just about being really careful about who you bring in, I think.
That sounds hard to do. How do you find those people? And will they care as much as the owner of the agency cares?
I mean, I've been lucky, I suppose, to work with creatives that have always really given a shit, whether it's the CCO or the creative team. Everybody that has been on an account I've worked on that's produced good work has been really massively into the work. And so I'm not wanting to produce replicas of me, but I've worked with creatives that live and breathe it in the same way that I do. And I find that most of the best creatives I've worked with do that. I don't think that as I get bigger, I'm not going to be able to find people who care as much as I do about making good work.
That gives me a segue to ask, what were you like at school? And by school, I mean primary school. What kind of kid were you?
Very sporty, pretty funny, not the funniest, but, I could step in, unremarkable academically, but school was really just kind of something I had to do in between playing sport from a very young age.
Is that the first time we've had a sporty kid in this entire time?
No. Remember, Samira from Ogilvy was a great swimmer, remember?
That's
remember?
Right. That was her assimilation thing.
To Australia.
Yeah, to Australia.
That's how she became liked and popular in Australia. Good swimmer.
But not that many sporty kids. But
football? Was that the sport?
Football, yeah. Football and tennis mainly. Rugby in the early days.
And Scotland?
Mm-hmm.
Where?
East Coast, Dundee.
What house? Did you have a tartan?
No, we were too lowly.
I went to a private school called Scotch College and I was in Alexander House.
No, we didn't get our own tartan, so we have to crib off someone else's.
Excellent. So one of the things we like to try to unpack is the creative process and how ideas and where ideas happen and how they get from your head out into the world. It's something that really creative people are notoriously very bad at talking about, but I wouldn't mind if you just gave us a general vibe overall and then we might drill into it a bit.
Well, I doubt I'm going to make it any clearer. Apologies in advance. It's a messy process, isn't it? Literally, I do know that whenever I get a brief, I'm going to be a nightmare for the next 2 or 3 days because just everything I'm doing, I'm viewing through the lens of that brief or saying or watching. And I'm just, could this be something? Could that be something? And I'm distracted by that brief, which can be a problem when you have 2 young kids and a wife who wants you to be present. But it has always been that way for me. I think that in terms of actually how I do it, I throw the kitchen sink at it. I will go for a run. I will think about it in the shower. I will do, and some things come to me, but ultimately, when it's me against a blank page, that's when it really comes out. And I tend to, as a copywriter, write and start writing and hope that something kind of comes out as I'm writing. And if I've done enough kind of work and looking into it and seeing what people say on Reddit and watching comedians talk about it and reading the brief and going on to, trying to just consume as much as I can and then letting it rip and hoping that something comes out, and it usually does.
And what do you write at first? Headlines? Do you write long prose that's sort of unfiltered, or like what's the first bit of writing that you tend to
the shopping list, just stuff completely irrelevant?
I'll probably start by doing end lines that I think sound good. And then I'll write a manifesto and just see if I can write into that headline, or I'll just start writing. I was trained on kind of Nike manifestos at Wieden, and that is something that comes pretty naturally to me. And if I have a nice line, I think, oh God, that's kind of the world needs a holiday or something. That's a nice line. I will try and write to that. I write a manifesto that kind of explains it, but in an interesting way.
So do all of your ideas have the world needs a holiday as the line?
Yeah, they all have that end line.
You need a holiday from this podcast. Hey, and what about, Al, when you get stuck? What do you do when you get stuck? How do you unstick yourself?
I just chain myself to the desk. And that's not very healthy. But I'll try my absolute best, and then I'll give up and walk away, and then try to come back. I mean, I do definitely believe in the overnight tests, and if it's not coming, that it won't be through a lack of trying.
I love this. I love this brute force of obsession just to fucking come up with some fucking ideas, and that's what I'm getting from you. And just fucking do it. Just stay there, do it. Is that a dying mentality in our culture?
I'm not sure, honestly. Maybe. I think I was brought up at a time in the agency world in London where it was so serious. Everyone took it so seriously coming up with ideas. I was at TBWA then in those days and they had just such amazing creatives, and that kind of seriousness and the level of care and I think that was all just really imprinted in me. I still think there's people that are obsessed with coming up with ideas and they have them pouring out of them, and maybe less are pointed towards advertising.
And do you think you can train that, or do you think that is a sort of...
Or is it born in Scotland?
Yeah, in Dundee.
On the moors. And...
I wonder sometimes, can you teach people to care? Can you train people to care? Or is this inbuilt sort of passion and obsession that certain people have? They're just made that way. What are your thoughts on that?
I think you joke about Scotland a little bit, but the work ethic that my dad and his dad, work was something that they endured. It was never supposed to be fun. So it was definitely, and it was fucking important. I had 3 jobs when I was 15, 16 in the summer holidays. It was no joke. And so I think that there's definitely a work ethic, for better or worse, that I have. And I think that I wanted to be an athlete when I was younger, and I failed pretty early. By the age of 12 and 14, I had already experienced failure, and I struggled to get into advertising as well. And I was just like, I just have to throw absolutely everything at this in order not to fail, and that's never stopped. And I enjoy it. Don't get me wrong. It's not a chore to think about ideas. I love it. I love coming up with stuff, and that without that love, there's no way I would be doing this. I am weirdly obsessed with coming up with ideas for brands. I'm not this. Yeah. I never thought I would say that, but I mean, it's true. I'm a lifer. I've been in advertising for 20 years.
Adam?
Yeah?
Is this an ad?
This is an ad for Mutinex. Mutinex are a marketing mix modelling company.
Why do I need one of those?
Well, then you can model the return on every single marketing decision you do.
So you wouldn't do an ad like this?
You'll never have to do an ad like this ever again.
Mutinex Growth OS, your best decisions start here. For more information or to request a demo, visit mutinex.co. That's mutinex.co. You mentioned earlier Wieden, Nike. What did you learn at Wieden?
An awful lot. I think the biggest thing for me at Wieden was finding my voice. I went to Wieden and tried to write like Wieden people wrote, and tried to do Wieden ads and tried to do Nike ads. And it took a while, but that got ripped out of me, and that no one wanted that. Nobody was interested in an ad that looked and felt like a Wieden ad. So I really was forced to find my own voice at that point, and my own personality in the writing. And so it forced me to do that. And then over time, it gave me confidence in it. And so I could go elsewhere with confidence that I had a voice, that I had a point of view, and it was unique and different, and it wasn't in the Wieden mold, which I thought, going in, I thought I needed to be like everyone else in order to succeed. I wanted to please everyone at Wieden when I went there first.
What's special about the place? How would you describe the culture and the way they approach creativity that makes it such an enduring, it's been such a consistent creative powerhouse for so long? What is it that's special about the place?
I mean, there's a lot of things I think that make it very special. For me, it was the first place I'd ever been where I was not just encouraged to be myself, but just forced to be the most of myself and see what that brought out of me. It is truly creatively led and creatively driven, and that was awesome. And I don't know, there was just a real sense of belief around the halls and the walls that we were surrounded by people that were constantly making good work, and the bar was just kind of kept going up. And I don't know, I just like being part of that team that was trying to do good stuff all the time.
Are there any signs or symbols, sorry to talk about Wieden so much at the moment, within the agency that you saw that kind of constantly reflected that back to you? Like, how do you know that they were constantly obsessed with the work and trying to lift the bar?
We were all there all the time. And it's all we talked about. We, especially on Nike, there was a team there, and I think that everyone wanted to do work worthy of that brand. And if you didn't, then you weren't on that. So there was definitely, you saw it. You saw the people coming to meetings. You saw the walls just covered. You saw people really giving a shit about it. And, the meetings were volatile and people cared. And so it felt like everyone was trying really, really hard. And so I did too. I was part of that as well.
And there's been a bit written lately about how the Nike brand has lost its way. It's not what it was. It's been a bit focused on digital and like not building the brand the way they used. So you got any thoughts on that? How do you see the brand?
Yeah, I mean, I read that piece as well. Massimo worked a bit with him, and I think he was onto something there, and I think there's a lot of truth about that. I think that winning isn't for everyone. I really like the new campaign. I mean, I think the executions are a bit soft, but I like the line, and I think our positioning is really good. I'm a kind of brand guy too. I believe in the power of creative advertising to positively affect the brand. So I'm obviously going to be on that side of the fence. I was lucky to work there at a time where it was still flying, and brand was very much the focus. And you can kind of probably feel a return to that, I would hope.
So being a business owner now at Flower Shop, how are you creating a culture that nurtures and creates strong ideas and creativity? And we've heard about your own personal kind of approach to it. How are you making that systemic through the business?
I think you have to lead by example. I'm careful about what I do and what I say, and it's no likey line, you're made of what you do. So I still try. I'm not up on high talking down to people, and I'm in the weeds with people trying to just make the work better all the time, and try to just lead by showing what I can do with a pen and how I can help people make their work better.
Is there anything that you think's fucked up about the industry that you think has to change, or anything that you think is substandard that you've approached and put into Flower Shop to try to move the creative industry on forwards?
Honestly, I'm not spending too much time or energy thinking about everyone else or what our competitors are doing or what the industry is doing. I know what I want to do, and we're trying to do that with clients that want the same thing. So, I'm just trying to find people that want to make the kind of work that we think is the right kind of work and want to make. So we're pretty kind of narrowly focused on that, not to try and evade that question, but that's the truth of it all. We're not looking around too much.
It's a good answer. You didn't evade it at all. You said, yeah, you don't give a fuck. It's just, you just want to do good work in your own shop. That's great.
Well, speaking of good work from your own shop, Al, we wanted to sort of focus on one piece of work, which, you guys have done there at Flower Shop, and that's the Tom Brady campaign for Fanatics. Do you want to tell us the idea and sort of what the genesis of the idea was?
It was for a Bowman card. Now, this is pretty technical baseball card stuff, and so I'm interested to see what the people thought of it. But in the States, the rookie card is a baseball card is the big card that you get for playing your first year at a club. But the card before the rookie card is called a Bowman card, and anyone who's drafted gets a Bowman card. The Tom Brady, the football player, was drafted as a baseball player to the Montreal Expos. He never took up the position, but he was drafted. He's just an insane athlete.
Wow. I didn't know that.
So,
wow.
Well, it was wild. Drafted straight out of high school, like not the first round or anything, but drafted nonetheless. He never went to Montreal Expos. He went to Michigan to play football. The Montreal Expos later went out of business, went defunct. And so Tom Brady has this card as an Expos Bowman card. So the campaign just imagined what if he'd have gone to the Expos, what would have happened? And that was the idea of it.
What was it selling?
It was selling the card, the Bowman card. So there was a 1 of 1 and there was a 1 of 20. And so it was to kind of create awareness and furor around that card.
In order to sell the business of Fanatics, right? Which is like a sports card business there in the States, yeah?
Both. To sell that specific card, to sell Bowman as a level of card collecting, underneath the rookie cards. Everyone talks about rookie cards. They wanted to Bowman in that conversation.
And what would that Brady Bowman card be worth?
The signed one went for $500,000.
Jeez, right. Wow.
Yeah, in the week of launch.
$500,000 for a sports card.
We'll put the link to the work online. It's quite culturally specific. What we did and what we do with all the work here is we take it to the pub test. So we show a whole bunch of people in a pub what they think of the work. Unfortunately, these people are in Australia, so the cultural context is going to be lost a bit. We use a research company called Ideally to help us make this happen. And we're now going to see if your work passes the pub test.
The pub test is brought to you by Ideally, the insights platform where ideas go to grow.
Okay, what if Tom Brady played baseball? Is it an entertaining idea? Yes. I think it's definitely, if I was into either of those sports, I would be delighted to see it.
I mean, I guess in principle, it was an entertaining idea.
Actually, I think that this is a really entertaining idea. I kind of like the idea of the sliding doors moment.
Is this an entertaining idea? No, not for me. I mean, the spot, it was well made.
Why aren't sports cards big in Australia? I can't give you a single answer that would make any meaningful sense to any actual sports fan.
I have no idea why sports cards aren't big in Australia. Maybe because no one cares about baseball.
I mean, you know what? When I was a kid, sports cards were really big growing up. I think I collected NBA cards, but they might have dropped off now. I don't know, but my kids aren't into them.
Yeah, we do. I remember like NRL footy Tarzos and chip packets had a moment.
Does it pass the pub test? Soft yes?
No, this doesn't pass the pub test. Tom Brady's gross.
Yeah, I think this passes the pub test. It's pretty entertaining. Like, it's a pretty cool concept.
I mean, as an Australian, I just don't get it. I don't know why you'd use a fictional... I mean, I know it is going to be a real product, but I don't know. Yeah, it just all seems wrong to me.
It all seems wrong to me. I love that. That's a slightly embarrassing line to to end the pub test on. What are your thoughts on that? And I've got a thought which I'll share after.
I heard a soft yes, but it passed. So I thought that was amusing. I mean, it's difficult to not sound defensive, but I was actually pretty happy with that. People, I think, probably couldn't understand it, but still liked it a bit here and there. You do have to know what's going on a little bit to appreciate it. I think you have to know that he was drafted to the Expos, that there's 3 Hall of Famers.
You have to know that, and you have to know that the Expos, because I didn't know that they folded, and that's why in the ad he goes and becomes a car dealer. Is that right? And opens a car dealership, right? Because the Montreal thing's folded. Is that correct?
No, that was just imagining, when a city has a big sports star, they get car franchises. They
in Montreal.
They open their own car franchise, yeah.
The cultural context obviously makes it a little harder, but I actually think that's pretty encouraging. If you go, okay, here's a bunch of people in an Australian pub who don't have that sort of, attachment to American sports and but they still found it well made, entertaining, right? There's still some good signs there, I think.
Yes, totally. It was completely fucking lost because the context was lost. What's interesting is when you're talking about your obsession, it's a highly crafted, highly hyperbolized piece of work. Yeah. And so I'm just wondering if you have this kind of obsession for the work and obsession for the idea and you're trying to maintain this, how does that manifest itself in the creative work that you kind of do? As opposed to just cracking the idea, does it lend itself to perfectly crafted work? Does it lend itself to big ideas? Does it lend itself to these hyperbolized narratives? Or am I just putting you in a box?
No. I mean, I think that you just apply that to every part of the process, that kind of obsessive, whether it's coming up with the line or whether it's coming up with the memorabilia on the wall in the bar. Every piece of memorabilia on the wall is actually his football success, but in baseball. So the amount of home runs that appears on the wall is the amount of touchdowns he's thrown. So it was like imagining like that his football achievements are completely transposed to baseball. So that's another kind of like Easter egg.
But Al, why bother going to that level of detail when people just don't pay that much attention to advertising?
Because I think that some people do. I actually think that people do like advertising when it's done really well. And I think that pleases people. And I think it's worth doing it for those people. And I think that it benefits the brand because of that. I think people are more likely to like Tops if they think that Tops are taking care and they're speaking to them and talking about things that they love, which, the Easter eggs and stuff that were in that commercial were the things that were talked about in the comments and the social sentiment and stuff. So for me, it's worth it. Why not?
Time and money.
Yeah, but it didn't need a full team of people to do it. There was me and a couple of creators who cared a lot about it and were willing to do that work.
You know why I like Ideally, Adam?
Why, Brent?
It's fast. You get insights overnight. And I think the main thing is it's not trying to test whether an idea should live or die, but it's trying to give you real insights that you can build on and make the creative better.
That sounded like an ad.
Because it was.
Do you know why I like Ideally?
Why?
Because they sponsor the black T-shirts.
They do.
If you want to do a pub test on your own, don't. Go to Ideally instead.
That's right. Visit goideally.com. That's goideally.com and find out how they can help.
We are in creativity for serving commerce or whatever that phrase is. How do you reconcile the time pressures and the cost pressures with this obsessive approach to creative output?
Yeah, it's tough. We have a CFO now on board as well, who's kind of marking my time a lot more than I'm used to. So there is definitely some tension there that's constantly brewing. But no, I think that it's hard to quantify like how much time to put in, and I have to, I'm not like some maniac. I have another life, and I just have to kind of just balance things. Like I was saying at the start, now I'm owner of a business as well. It's not just all about throwing myself into the wall memorabilia of a pub. but it's hard not to.
Yeah, but it is interesting. It's what you bring to the table. That's your thing. That's how you've navigated your way through it. Brent asked a question before about training other people to feel like that. You kind of said before you recruit people who are really passionate about the industry and about ideas and so on. If you've got a whole lot of people like you, I'd find that a really hard managerial task to try to manage other people who are as obsessive as
That's
are.
what the CFO's there for.
Maybe.
No.
But how do you manage that? How do you bring out the best in them but keep them on track?
It's really difficult, and I don't want to enforce my way of working on people. I work with a collaborator called Nathaniel Lawler, who's like pound for pound probably one of the funniest copywriters around. He's an absolute pain in the ass to work with, and he's brutal, but he's brilliant. And so you and that's another thing at Wieden, you give people the space that they need to come up with the work in their own way, rather than me saying, hey, I'm an obsessive, I want you to be too. I think that people will do it the way that they do it, and he probably spends less time than I do on it. He's just, he's very quick, and I think everyone's different, and I'm not going to try and...
And is that how you think about process at Flower Shop? You think about not having a sort of strict process, a strict way of doing things. You do give people the space to do it their own way. Is there, would you say that process is pretty loose at Flower Shop?
Yeah, I would. As loose as it can be without annoying people, particularly clients. We've got to get things done and near on time. And again, like talking about being a business owner, that's the practicality of it a bit.
Yeah.
I do make sure that we've got a lot of time, and that there's as much time as absolutely possible on the creative development.
And you mentioned clients there. Is it hard to find clients who have a similar obsession and similar level of care, who care as much as you do?
Yeah, it's not been the easiest, but we found a few. Our tops client pitches me all the time. He's just so involved in it, so obsessed by it. And a lot of those, people are those brands that love what they do as well as part of a passion project for them. He wants to be in the weeds. I think the flower shop works when you're a client that wants to be a little bit like more intimate, as I said, with the process and pretty hands-on.
So intimacy, obsession, is that how you pitch Flower Shop? What other words would you add in there?
Do you have a proposition? Do you have a line for Flower Shop where ideas grow? Everyone needs a holiday.
We do now. No, we where ideas grow. I tried to resist.
Yeah, resist flower puns.
Yeah, you're on. Yeah, I reckon you're on the right track by resisting that kind of thing.
There isn't like I don't have a one-liner of it. I think that we are lovers of advertising and still think that there is a place in the world for great advertising and work that people actually want to gravitate to, and that work as well is something that can benefit the brand. So that's the stuff we're trying to put out into the world.
Do you call yourself an advertising agency?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Not many people do that.
No, it's like chief marketing officers who want to be chief growth officers
or customer officer and stuff.
Same thing. Don't mention advertising. Don't mention marketing. If you think sort of 10 years into the future, I know that's a really hard thing to do. What would you like Flower Shop to be in 10 years' time?
I don't know. I haven't honestly thought 10 years in the future. I want us to be the best ad agency in New York, and the place people want to work most. Where creative people want to work most, and I want to kind of make work that stands out and people gravitate towards. So I'm not saying we're going to get there, but I'm trying to set like a big ambition for the place.
Yeah, that is a big ambition. Who's that right now, do you think?
For me, it's Wieden, just because I know the caliber of the creative there.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the strongest place and strongest culture still.
I used to pass a sandwich shop in Bondi Junction, which is a place near here. And on the sign, it's outside the sandwich shop, it said the best sandwiches in Bondi Junction.
It's a small ambition.
It's a small ambition. I'm going to just push back a little bit and say, I haven't heard anybody ever say, I want to be the best agency in their city.
Well, to
it's
be fair,
normally,
but it's not Bondi Junction.
I
mate,
know,
it's New
I know,
York.
it's, I
not
know it's
Bondi
New York.
Yeah.
I know, and it's okay. So a little bit of a hat tip to the fact that it's New York.
It's the most competitive advertising city in the world. Did I mention I worked there, Adam?
You know, you're already getting pretty high up on the rung. You're already in probably, I don't know, the top few in New York.
I wouldn't say that. I don't think we are. But I don't think we're there yet. I think we've done a couple of bits of work and it's been a good year. But I think that, I don't know, it just feels a bit tangible, like to be the best in this. We're in a shop, we look out onto the city. It just feels a little bit, not more within reach, but like I can get it, I understand it, and it's a goal that I can.
It's a practical goal.
Yeah. Well, and ambitious, but no. But to be fair, I think if you're in Boston or if you're in LA or somewhere, I think it doesn't feel as big as being the best in New York City. I mean, I think that is a big ambition.
It is, and I acknowledge that, and I'm not trying to be arrogant or something. I'm just trying to go for it,
Yeah.
No, arrogance not coming through at all in a positive way. And if you do achieve the best agency in New York, which I do struggle to get my head around because I'm sure you'll get there next year or the year after, and people are interviewing you then, what was the secret sauce? What got you there? Was it your diligence? Was it your obsession? Was it your ability to scale? Was it the intimate nature that you maintain even though you're big?
I think you're right. The scaling with the intimacy will be a challenge, and if we can get it right with the right people, I think it will be really good for us. And that's probably the most important thing for me. Obviously, finding like-minded clients, being on the short list for people that want to make the kind of work that we think is going to cut through, then that's tough too. But if we can keep it intimate and keep our eye on the work, I think we'll be in a good place. And I think we can do it. I know you're skeptical about scaling, but I think we can do it. I think you can find the right people.
I'm not skeptical about scaling. I reckon you can scale. Widen's a good example. Our agency scaled okay. I reckon relying purely on talent to do that is difficult. I think you've got to find great talent, but they've got to fit into a system or a process or a belief system that they can then fit into to scale. I think about Wieden+Kennedy a lot as an agency, and that's the reason why I asked you, was there anything tangible about them? Because they've managed to do that, but just by being a bloody good ad agency. And all I can understand about Wieden is everyone flies business class all the time. And so they must have this kind of sense of elitism or something that's
What makes you say that? What makes you say that?
What? That's
Wieden flies business class.
Oh, it's just something I heard once.
Well,
but it makes sense to me that they would.
So I've got an opposite story. So when I was at Saatchi, one of our Procter & Gamble clients, very senior Procter & Gamble clients, had started working with Wieden on Old Spice, and told this story with great pride about the first time she met Dan Wieden. He was sitting on the stairs at Wieden+Kennedy eating a ham sandwich that he'd brought from home.
Yeah.
Like he's the opposite of.
He eats.
So he's
And
the
people didn't
opposite.
think he ate?
He's the opposite of flying business
No,
class.
of course he is. That's all
Incredibly
affectation.
humble and
That's affectation. Of course he is. But as an agency, they've got premium, dedication, obsession baked in. I reckon everyone flies business class to help communicate that same thing.
Did you fly business class when you were at Wieden, Al? Is this a thing?
I was trying to think. I think, honestly, I think it was the same fight you have at every agency where you try and be like, hey, it's over 6 hours. I demand.
Yeah, Portland's a long way. To be fair, Portland's a long way from everywhere, to be fair.
I think it was always a fight. It was always a fight. I would say that, I don't know if this is what you're getting at, but I do think that creatives were
Lauded.
there and treated well, and it truly was creatively run.
And is that a good thing? Is that a good thing? Because it's interesting, right? I get from you a bit the opposite. I get a bit from you like you got to do the work and you got to be, like, do you think a pedestal's a bad thing for creatives or a good thing?
He's putting him on a pedestal. Watch this.
What's that?
I said he's putting him on a pedestal. Watch this. But I'm interested in your answer. It's a good question.
You were quickly shot down, thrown out, turfed out if you weren't good, if you didn't back it up. But there was definitely a swagger to some of the creatives. There was definitely like other creatives that had completely no ego, and you would never know that, that they were, had written that amazing ad that you love. So I think there was a mix of people. I think probably creativity was put on a pedestal more than the actual individuals. Most of the people actually were pretty humble, honestly.
How do you want it to be at Flower Shop? If you could describe how you want the creative culture to be, how would you describe it?
Yeah, I want the work to kind of speak for our creatives as much as it can. I don't think talking and, we're not doing a lot of thought leadership. And I think our work is our thing. And that's, you're made of what you do is the line that we had. And I think that, you want to work with nice people, but I'm willing to put up with difficult people to get great work.
You're made of what you do. Is that a line for Flower Shop, or is that?
No, that was a line for a Nike campaign that we did. Evgeny Primachenko wrote that, a Russian guy, and I loved it.
Yeah, that's cool. You could steal that. That's lovely. That's great.
Yeah. It's worthy of a black T-shirt.
Erase that from your mind, because we are now going to ask you, if you had to sum up your creative philosophy and put it on a black T-shirt, what would it be?
Or a Heather Gray T-shirt even.
Could this be better?
That might be my favourite. Black
That's
T-shirt.
good. It's really good. I think Dave Droger said to us when we did this, he always kind of focuses on not what the idea is, but where the idea could go. And I get a similar kind of...
But also, could this be better? I think there is a healthy paranoia to all the great people.
Healthy?
Healthy paranoia where it's this sort of, exactly that. Could this be better? How could it be better? As opposed to no, it's great. You know what I mean? I think that it's got to be healthy. It can't be unhealthy. But don't you think, Al, that sort of constant pressure to make it better, I think is inherent in all the best people I've worked with.
I think my line would be, how good is this line?
Yeah, exactly. We'll talk about that later. We'll have a therapy session on that later.
Fuck, that's good. Could this be better?
I think that's my favourite black T-shirt that we've had.
And when someone points it out to you, like a director will do something or say something, or another creator will see something, you're like, fuck, of course. I need to be thinking on every single second of this. But you're right, Brent, it's a fine line between craziness and enough already. Enough. You need to get, this thing needs to go out. You're starting to this is starting to frustrate people. So you do have to know when to stop.
There's that great quote by Lorne Michaels that he says, Saturday Night Live doesn't go out because it's ready. It goes out because it's 11 o'clock on Saturday night. You know what I mean? You're right. There's a point where it's got to ship, right?
Yeah, but you know where I'm going to be at 10:59, 58 seconds.
In the edit suite, perfecting it.
Yeah,
100%. Al, what I love is just how unbelievably simple the way you see it. There are no fancy models, no sort of fancy jargon. It's just
no processes. The CFO gets in the way.
It's just a very simple obsession with the work. There's
a creative team called Chris and John in the UK who, when I was putting my book together, they just wanted a line on everything. They were like, the Grand National is the original extreme sport, or Alton Towers, make your kids earn it. It was just like a simple, you had to make, your kids were doing all sorts of, in order to get, it was just a simple reframing of something that felt familiar. And I think that it is quite simple, that conceptual thought, to just try and make people see the same thing in a different light. And I love doing it.
Next time we catch up, can you do one for Flower Shop?
Yeah.
Cool.
What was your input for where ideas grow?
Yeah, that's one. That idea is not going to grow.
It die on the vine. I'll have one for you next time.
All right, good on you, mate. That was fantastic. Thank you very much for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks so much, Al. It was awesome, man. Great to meet you.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me, guys.
God bless.
Could have that been better?
Exactly. It's not often you meet obsession with humility. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or obsession with low benchmarks of success. I find that fascinating to be the best agency in New York. I honestly
don't think that's a low benchmark.
I know what you're saying about New York, but normally the frame of reference is we want to be
Best
the
in the
best
world.
in the world, or at least the best in America. And then what I loved about it, he said, we're in a shop. We see the city in front of us. It's tangible. It's real, and that sense of practicality coming to life in really good work, and you are what you do. I think that's maybe a bastardized version of that line he liked, but again, it's that practical, tangible approach to his ideas that he's obsessed about, which I think.
Well, it's unusual to find that combination of obsession and practicality. I mean, they're two opposing forces, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's, in our industry, it's impossible is nothing, or nothing is impossible, and it's big superlatives and imagine this or imagine that. And he's going, no, this is what we can do. We can do this, but do this bloody well. And it's right in front of your nose. And then I come back to Scotland, and that's kind of, it's the coal mines and
Taoist, Scottish sort of.
But not that he was Taoist. but I found that very refreshingly different to how most people, and as you said, just a relentless focus on the work and the fuck systems and processes, fuck what the industry is doing. We're just a bloody good ad agency.
Yeah, he's making it very simple, isn't he?
Yeah.
And I also love the pride with we're an advertising agency. We love advertising. We make good advertising. Like, he's very unashamedly about advertising, which is refreshing. I think.
Is refreshing, but is that fiscally irresponsible when advertising is becoming such a smaller and smaller percentage of the marketing pie?
Again, that's where the obsession comes in. I don't think he cares that it's not the growing part of the business. I think that's what he's here to do. He's obsessed about it, and I don't think he's driven by, what's the growing trend in the business, right?
I reckon in 30 years' time, I'm going to get a call and he's going to say, "Hey, Adam, I've got the line."
It's going to take a while, and it's not going to be where ideas grow. Adam.
No,
it's not going to be that. Yeah, great to meet Al. Great to have him on the show.
Yeah, you bet.